Hello and welcome to today's podcast. Today we're going to do something different. I have received a lot of questions from some of you and we've batched them together, and I want to take this opportunity to record a video and answer some of the top questions that I've seen over and over again. So the way it's going to work is that, Kirsten, who is behind the camera always, is going to ask the question, and then I am going to answer the question, and then we're going to go through them all. So here we go with question number 1.
Kwame, what is the best advice you would give a new entrepreneur?
So the question is, what is the best advice I will give a new entrepreneur? Well, there are a couple of things I think every new entrepreneur should know. And the most important one is that you need to be going into a market to solve a problem. Business is about solving a problem. So whenever you are trying to start a business, it has to be about a particular problem that you've seen in the marketplace that you want to solve. It can be a problem that you've had yourself, a problem that somebody has, a problem that's in the society that you've seen, that you see as an opportunity. So that's number 1. Number 2, you have to ask yourself, how big is this market? Is it worth my time? You have to make sure that this is a market that you can go in and is large enough to make it worth all the time and effort and money you're going to put into it. And then you have to go and find whether there are people out there with this problem that you're trying to solve, and whether they like the product or service that you're developing to solve the problem. And finally, what price are they willing to pay for your solution? And if you find that there's a market out there and people are willing to pay the price that is going to cost you to be able to manufacture or provide this service and make a profit, then you're onto something. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to solving a problem. And so I always tell people, you have to fall in love with the problem and go find a solution. So if you try one solution that doesn't work, go try another solution, stay with the problem, and focus on providing the solution that will provide the most value to the market that people are willing to pay for. So that's what I would tell a new entrepreneur. Okay. Question number 2.
Who is your role model in your personal life and your business life?
Who is my role model in my personal life and my business life? That's a tough question. I think that I look up to certain people based on certain characteristics that they've demonstrated. So, for example, when it comes to personal life, I look up to Barack Obama, and for a couple of reasons. I think that Obama is one of the most measured and disciplined people that I've ever seen. If you just look at how he's, over the years, if you look at his trajectory, if you look at his campaign, if you look at just the person who he is under pressure, he's a very measured guy. And that's a quality that I really like, because that's something that I aspire to. I don't want to be reactive. I don't want to be ruffled. I don't want to be shaken just because of events that are happening around me. And as in business, a lot of chaos happens around you, and you have to be able to develop that quality where you are very measured. And there are several advantages to that. It lets you think clearly. It lets you react, not impulsively, but with reason. And it also calms the people around you. So I like Obama's discipline. I like his measuredness. He's very even keel. He doesn't go high, he doesn't go low. He's just there. And people call that arrogant, but I find that as a solid quality, because in business, that's something that you need. And I also like the fact that he's very secure in his skin. He's secure in who he is. He doesn't have to overly be pompous to impress you. He knows who he is, and he's secure in that, and he's confident in that. And in business, you need that. So I would say Obama for his discipline, his confidence, and his measuredness in his personality. When it comes to business people, I like Richard Branson. I like Richard Branson because he's the quintessential risk taker. he's developed so many businesses, and he's also failed at so many things. But the underlying fact is that he's willing to take the risk. And I also like Richard Branson because he's also about brand quality. When you think about the Virgin brand, you think about quality. When you think about Virgin Airlines, you think about quality. You think about a certain level of sophistication and service that comes with the brand. And he's very consistent with that. So I look up to him because I want to be that. I want my brands to stand for something, And then he also has this sustainability and social consciousness around his brands. So even though he has this high quality product or service he's providing, there's also a social giving back part of who he is that permeates through his brand, through his company, the way he treats his employees, and I think it's a whole package that comes with him. But most of all, he's a risk taker, and he's not afraid to fail. And if you look at his success, that has come largely because he goes into industries and just disrupts them and tries to be a very unique representation of that industry. I also like Mark Cuban. I was on Shark Tank, and it was unfortunate that Mark Cuban was not on the show when I was on. When I went on the show, he wasn't one of the judges, but one of the investors. But I've always liked Mark Cuban for a couple of reasons. The first one is that he's very honest in his business approach and very practical. If you listen to even some of his financial advice and his approach to business, his risk taking, but he's also very realistic about what you can do. And he's also about being able to take yourself from the lowest point and being able to overcome odds and become something. And if you look at his journey, I relate to that because he's somebody that just started with a big belief, even at a very young age, and kept going. And people said he was lucky, but before the luck was the work, And I think that he's a very practical guy. He has a great business sense, but he also believes in the little guy's ability to be able to rise above different challenges and become great. And so that would be those two people that I look up to when it comes to business. Question number 3.
If you could do something differently with your business, what would it be?
Well, the question is, if I could do something different with my business, what would it be? So in terms of business, I guess we're talking about giftcardrescue.com. I think that if I look over the last 7 years that I've been, running this company, if there's something different that I would do, it probably will be being bold earlier in telling the story. Because I think that I kept postponing the beginning of that arrival. As an entrepreneur, it comes to a point where you feel you've arrived in terms of where the business is. Like, okay, I have something here. And even after Shark Tank, and even after we went from $250,000 in sales to $2 million the following year, I still was not selling that story. I still felt like I needed to do more to be able to have arrived and sell that story that we are legitimate, we are here to stay, and we're going to do big things. And I think that that's one of the things that I could have done earlier, is be bold, go out there and sell the success that we've become and use that to leverage resources and money. So that would be my answer to that. So now we go to question number 4.
What is your favorite book and why?
So the question is, what is my favorite book and why? Well, to be honest with you, I don't read a lot. And that's one of the things that I'm trying to work on. But when I do, I usually listen to audiobooks. But over the last 10 years, I would say I've probably read like maybe 4 or 5 books, which is sad. But I am one of those people that if I grab a book, it has to grab me. Like, I would not read, if I read the first 3 pages and it doesn't get me, I'm done. I don't go any further, because a book has to grab me, because number 1, I don't have the time. Number 2, if I'm going to do it, it has to provide something immediately that will keep me there keep going. And one of the best books I have read is called Rework. The guys who started, I always confuse their names, so I hope I get this right. The guys who started 37 Signals, they are the guys behind Basecamp. If you know the application, the web application Basecamp, the guys who started Basecamp, I think, own a company called 37 Signals. And the two guys, I think the two co-founders of 37 Signals wrote that book called Rework. So if you Google it or go to Amazon, you'll see Rework. I think it's one of the best entrepreneurial books out there. It's a very quick read. I think it's about 100 pages or 150 pages. It's a very quick read, very easy chapters that are chopped up in very, very small bites. So you'll be able to go through it very quickly. But the great thing about this book is that you cannot rush through it. Like, I would read one chapter and it may be like 3 pages, and I'll have to think about like a whole couple of days before, because I have to internalize the lesson, or it reinforces something I already know, or it just leads me in a different direction. And that has been one of the best books that I've read. And every now and then I go back to that and read it again. So Rework, if you haven't, I think you should really read it. It's a very practical book, because one of the things that I learned from it is that it's okay to be small. You know, you get this media sensation and fascination about big and growth and big companies. And one of the chapters that I read that I really remember from that book is that you don't have to be big. You don't have to feel the pressure to be big. If you're a 10-person company or a 5-person company or a 3-person company, that's where you feel comfortable. Stay there as long as you are challenging yourself and you are being successful in your industry and your space and you're being innovative. Don't go for the 50-person company just because that's where everybody is going, because sometimes that leads to failure. So it's a great book. I think you should check it out. The other book I've read that relates to business is called The Obstacle is the Way. I would say after Rework, this is the second book I recommend to any business person. The Obstacle is the Way. It will challenge you and it will change the way you look at business problems or any life problems going forward. You know, rather than us fearing problems, most of the time, challenges come in business to help you, force you, and guide you to the solution or something that you should have been doing anyway. So it is a book about embracing challenges, and it gives you practical tips on how to fight through any difficulty that you're experiencing in your business. So that will be the 2 books that I would recommend. And now the final question.
What quote do you live by?
What quote do I live by? I think my favorite quote is "The numbers don't lie." And if you talk to any of my employees, that's something that they will tell you. As a business owner, you have to be comfortable with data. And when the data is telling you something, you have to listen to it. A lot of us shun data because we are afraid of what it might tell us. And a lot of us don't know how to get the right data to be able to even make sense of our business. The numbers don't lie. So if your revenue is telling you something, if your expenses are telling you something, if the bottom line is telling you something, if your balance sheet is telling you something, if your cash flow statement is telling you something, you need to listen. And the worst thing you can do is to collect data, spend all the time, money, and effort in collecting data and ignoring because you don't like what you're seeing. Because data can also be a very powerful thing, because it can help you project what is about to happen. It can help you prepare for something that's about to happen to your company. And it can also help you grow your business, because if you understand how things work in your business, the relationship between marketing and revenue, the relationship between sales cycle and revenue, the relationship between cash flow, inventory, and revenue, all those numbers will then begin to help you project how your business runs, make smart decisions about how you conserve your cash or how you spend your cash, and help you know the cycles that are in your business so that you can better prepare for the good times and the bad time. So I guess my favorite quote in business will be that the numbers don't lie. So that is the end of this podcast. Those 5 questions have been, great questions. So if you have any more questions that you want to ask, what I plan to do is that every now and then, once I get a good number of questions, I'll batch them together and then I'll do a video like this answering them. So keep them coming. But thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe to our channel.